Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Jaded Blossom's April 2026 release is now available and it's all about babies. Here's a quick look at the April release. So many fun stamps, dies, and there's even a new stencil set. The stencil is called Duck Stencil. This is currently not available for purchase individually. This is the freebie you'll receive if you purchase at least $50 worth of product, and one item must be from the new release. This is for a limited time and while supplies last. The first die set is Baby Gnome. So let me take these out of the package so you can see what's included. And there are so many different options for how you'll design the baby. There's a little naked baby with the hat, and you can add different clothing options or just a diaper. There's also a baby wrapped up in a towel, and there are several different hats for the baby to wear. There's also a Gnome Die baby add-on set, and this set works with the boy or girl gnomes. You can have the gnome holding the different items, or you could use them individually. And this set does include a baby for the gnome to hold. The set also includes two different styles of onesies. There's a diaper, a rattle, a bottle, a duck, a teddy bear, a pacifier, so many fun baby items. And then of course, all the little decorative pieces to really add that nice detail. The next die set is Baby Dies number 2. Jaded Blossom does have a baby die set number 1. I don't have it, but definitely check it out. There are some really cute images on it. So in the Baby Dies set number 2, it includes the carriage image, and the baby will fit inside. There's also the large teddy bear, some blocks, and the stork holding the baby bundle, which I think that is one of the cutest images. There are also some letters, so you could add A, B, C, or spell out the word baby on the wooden blocks. So with all those fun die sets, of course, we have a sentiment set. This first one is called Little Gnomie, and there is a coordinating outline die set. Lots of great sentiments for that new baby, plus 3 teeny tiny duck images. And of course, there's a die that goes around every sentiment and image. I'll flip these over so you can see the actual size of the stamps and dies. Jaded Blossom has one more sentiment stamp set. This one's called Welcome to Parenthood. Now there aren't coordinating outline dies, but the 2 large sentiments, so babies make the world a better place, congratulations, and making a splash, welcome to the world, little one. These are basically square size, so you could cut them out using a square die. They also fit on top of Jaded Blossom's pizza box die, which would be a really fun idea since you can add a gift card on the inside. The final die set, and I love this one, Stitched Bubble Card Matte Die. So it will cut out the rectangle, adding that stitch border around the outside, and then the entire piece will add a fun stitched bubble detail all over the background. Now this is a little bit smaller than A2 size. I believe it's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I'm holding it up to an A2 size card base for comparison. So that's everything that's included in the April 2026 release. And as always, you can save by purchasing the full release bundle. Now with all of Jaded Blossom's new releases, they always have new MDF pieces. So they did not disappoint for the baby release. There are several options. So you can see the one has the little bear ears. So if you're using the bear ear hat, you can have the little hang tag ring option or with the stand. They also have the baby with the towel and the 2 other baby hat options. And all of them have the hang tag ring or the stand. I think the MDF pieces with the hang tag ring would be perfect, decorated and added as a tag onto a new baby gift. And you could use the MDF pieces with the stand as baby decor in the nursery. And there's always the option of the boy and girl gnome MDF pieces, and you can have them hold all the different baby items. So these are available now, and I will have a link in the description box below, along with the April 2026 release. Now I have several cards to share with you using the new items. After this release, I am set on baby cards for many years. For most of the pattern paper, I am using some older collections from Doodlebug Design. The boy collection is called Snips and Snails, and this is from 2012. So it's 14 years old. I'm surprised I even have any left. I have the paper pad and scraps stored in a fancy folio. It used to be called a Scrapmaster folder, but they did change the name. I love using these for my 6x6 paper pads that I haven't completely finished off. They store all the scraps beautifully. And if you are interested in the fancy folio, it is linked in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I used the new stitched bubble card mat die on some teal. It looks like polka dots, but they're actually teeny tiny stars. I'm also using a little bit of the rubber ducky pattern paper, and I'm layering everything on some dark teal cardstock from my stash. The duck pattern paper is 4 1/4 of an inch by 1.5 inches, and that cardstock layer is an additional 1/8 of an inch. For the background cardstock layer is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. And since the bubble panel does have all that faux stitch detail, I used both ATG tape and some liquid glue. Just want to make sure it all stays adhered. I'll put adhesive on the back, add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next, I'll add the duck panel toward the bottom of the card, about 3/4 of an inch up from the very bottom edge. I've already stamped and die cut out all the pieces for the card. I have them in scrapbook.com's small stack and sort tray, so hopefully I don't lose any pieces. Although I think I did misplace one piece for the baby, and I'll grab that here in a moment. I'll be adding the baby image on a stitched circle die cut, and I use some white shimmer cardstock for that circle. I'll add the white circle on a Scallop Circle, and the Scallop Circle die set is from Jaded Blossom. So the first baby image I'll be assembling is the baby all wrapped up in a towel with a little ducky hood. I use black cardstock for the outline background piece, and this is really just needed as a guide. There are a few images where there are portions of that piece showing. The skin tone cardstock I'm using for this gnome is from P13's Skin Tone cardstock. Jaded Blossom does carry the P13 Skin Tone paper pad. I believe it's currently out of stock, but hopefully it'll be available again soon. There are 6 different skin tones included in the one paper pad. For the little duck hood, there are 2 tiny circles that we'll cut out for the eyes. You could add a piece of black cardstock behind that area, or you could cut out the eyes from black cardstock. I simply used a marker and colored the piece behind the hood. It's an easy way to make those eyes show through. The pattern paper I use for the blanket, or I guess really this would be a hooded towel, it's a yellow tone-on-tone design with itty-bitty yellow polka dots. If you don't add the hood, I think the bottom portion looks like a blanket wrapped around the baby. So once I have the hooded towel in place, next I'll add the feet, and I decided I would pop them up using some small foam squares. And the feet are very tiny, so I am cutting the foam squares in half. This is a very thin foam dimension, only 1 millimeter thick, so it'll add just that little extra dimension. There are 2 different nose options for the baby gnomes. The one I'm using for this baby is the smaller size. I'll put glue on the back, attach the nose in place, and there are also a couple of hair options. There's little braids for the girl, and then this cute little curl that you can put in the center. And I love that it'll go right over that tiny nose. The final piece I'm adding is the little duck beak, and I use some orange cardstock for that. Now I'll flip over the gnome, and I am using more foam dimension. This is the small foam squares in the 1 millimeter thickness, and these are from scrapbook.com. Before adding the gnome on the circle, I will put some foam dimension behind the scallop circle, but only the top area. This time I'm using the large foam squares in the 1 millimeter thickness, and these are also from scrapbook.com. And I'll remove the release paper, put glue behind the bottom area where that scallop circle will sit on the duck pattern paper. Now I'll add the gnome in the center of the circle. For a sentiment, I selected the littlest feet make the biggest footprints on our heart. It's one of my favorite sentiments from the whole set. I cut it out using the coordinating outline dies, and I am popping it up with more foam. I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment above the gnome at the top of the card. For embellishments, I'll be adding some small stitched circle die cuts, and I use some teal holographic paper from my stash. The dies for the circles are from Jaded Blossom's Octagon Christmas add-on set number 2. There's one die that has 3 different sizes of circles, which worked perfectly for embellishments. I'll add 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card. This little baby gnome looks so cute and cozy, all wrapped up in the duck towel. And I did end up making 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 2. For this card, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. It's from Freshly Made Sketches number 722. This is a really fun sketch, and I've been reaching for it again and again lately. For the background of my card, I selected this fun circle polka dot design, and I cut that panel to 5 1/4 of an inch by 4 inches. For the diagonal stripes, I use 2 different pattern papers. For the wider piece, I use the green tone-on-tone stripe paper, and the medium width strip, I use the yellow tone-on-tone polka dot. The very narrow strip is some blue cardstock from my stash, and it's the same color I'm using to layer the background. I kept those pieces the full 6 inches. I'll put adhesive on the back, adhere them down, then I'll flip over the panel, and with a pair of scissors, I'll trim off the overhang. I use ATG tape for the 2 wider strips, but for this narrow strip, I'm using some glue. Now I'll flip it over, trim off the extra. There was a little bit of glue visible. I just wipe that away with my finger. For a little extra detail and shine, I'm adding a Love from Lizzie peel off along the outside edge of the 3 strips. This is the silver holographic color in the pinstripe style, and I'm using the narrowest width. Along the side of the yellow polka dot, I just need a smaller strip, so I was able to use one of the scrap pieces I saved on the peel-off sheet. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this piece on blue cardstock, and the blue cardstock layer is 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. I'll put more adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 5.5 inches by 4¼ inches. So here are all the die cut pieces for this card, and I've already stamped out the sentiment. I'll grab my silicone mat so I can start assembling the next baby. This is basically the naked baby, but we will put a diaper on him. I use white cardstock for that very background piece. I'll add the skin tone body. And this is another skin tone color from the P13 paper pad. For the hat, I'm using the blue tone-on-tone star pattern paper. There's a separate die piece for the little knot at the top of the hat. You could use a different color. I use the same pattern paper, but it does add that little extra detail. For the baby's diaper, I use some of the plaid pattern paper. And I love the Jaded Blossom included a safety pin for the diaper. Now, size comparison, this is actually a giant safety pin, but in the crafty world, it's actually very tiny. I use the solid blue for the top portion of the safety pin, so that little plastic piece, and some silver mirror for the metal portion of the safety pin. I'll put glue on the back and attach it to the front of the diaper. I'm trying not to cover up the little stitch detail for the baby's belly button. I selected the sentiment, "A little gnome is on the way." Using the outline die, I cut out another piece and I'll layer the two together, offsetting them slightly so you can see a little bit of that blue underneath and on the left side of the sentiment. I'll be adding a large stitched circle die cut. I use some white shimmer cardstock for the circle, and this circle is 3 inches in diameter. I'll put glue on the back, adhere the circle on the right side of the card, and inside the circle I'll add the baby. I did pop him up using more foam dimension. The sentiment I'll add on the left side of the baby. Part of it will sit on the circle, so in the area that goes off of the circle, I'm adding a scrap piece of cardstock. Then I'll put glue on the back and add the sentiment in place, making sure it's on nice and straight before that glue dries completely. For embellishments, this time I'm adding some stitched heart die cuts, and I use Jaded Blossom's original Embellishment Cluster die set. I'm using just the large and medium size hearts. There is one size smaller. I'll add 3 hearts above the sentiment, a large and 2 medium, then 2 hearts in the lower right hand corner, 1 large and 1 medium. For a final finishing touch, I'll use a white gel pen, add highlights on the hearts and also the gnome's hat. For the hearts, I'm putting 3 small dots. So on the large heart, I'll put those dots on the left side, and the small hearts, I'm adding those dots on the right side. I also put just a few highlights on the hat. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is a simple design that you could easily switch for a girl baby card. Now moving on to card design number 3, and I'll be gluing lots of different die cut images for this card, starting with a chair. This is from Jaded Blossom's chair die set. I thought it would be perfect to have the gnome sitting in the chair holding the baby. For the very background piece of the chair, I used white cardstock. There are some areas visible with this piece, so it would be the buttons of the chair. Now, most of these will be covered up once I add the gnome on the chair. You could use a different color for that background piece, or you could cut it out again and inlay a different cardstock into those small button areas. I use 2 different teal colored cardstocks for the chair. the dark teal for the back and the cushions, and then for the chair's arms, this is a pearlescent finished lighter teal color. For the feet of the chair, I'm using some brown cardstock. Now there is a little bit of that white cardstock showing on the left side. I don't think I lined up the one arm perfectly, but that's okay. It ends up being covered up once I add the gnome. So there's the chair finished, and I'll just set that aside for now and start assembling the teddy bear. Now this one was designed so the gnome would be holding it, so its little arms are up as if it's being lifted. But I still think it looks cute just sitting on its own. I use brown cardstock for that background piece. This will all be covered up. For most of the teddy bear, I used a brown tone-on-tone polka dot paper, and this is from Doodlebug Designs Petite Print Collection. Just like the little duck hood towel for the eyes, I'm using a black marker, just coloring the piece behind. That way I don't need to inlay those teeny tiny eyes. Using a lighter solid cardstock for the muzzle and tummy of the bear, and an even lighter color for the bottom of the bear's feet. For the bear's ears, I am using a solid brown, so it's not the same polka dot pattern paper. Overall, I think the images are very easy to assemble. The teddy bear does have a few more pieces than the other images I'll be assembling. We have one more arm to add. Then I need to dig through the rest of my die cut pieces, find the bottom of the feet. I need the ears, the muzzle, and the teeny tiny nose. I'm adding the ears down next. For the bear's nose, I used a very dark brown cardstock color, and this is actually the darkest brown shade that's included in the P13 skin tone paper pad. So after I attach the muzzle, I'll put a small drop of Barely Art glue, and I'm picking up the nose using the wax tip end of Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. And before it dries, I'll make sure it's on there nice and straight. And then the final step for the bear, adding the bottom of the feet. And I'm not sure if the bottom of the feet really make a difference if it's on the right or left side. It looked a little off, so I did switch mine. So there is the teddy bear all assembled. Next, I'll work on the baby bottle, way less pieces. So I have white cardstock for that background piece. I use the white shimmer cardstock for the glass or plastic area of the bottle. A light pink cardstock for the rim, or it might be that little twist area. And then the very end, the silicone or latex piece, I'm using a light peach cardstock color. For the duck, I use black cardstock for the outline piece, two different shades of yellow, the lighter one for the body, a little bit darker for the wing, and then orange cardstock for the beak. Another very easy image to assemble. We have just two images left. Next, I'll work on the rattle. I'll use white cardstock for the outline, more of the white shimmer for the handle, and then two different pink shades for the rattle. The lighter pink for that stripe around the rattle. And then the final image, the sweet little baby gnome. I use white cardstock for the outline piece, some pink tone-on-tone floral pattern paper for the baby's hat and bunting. And this pattern paper is from Doodlebug Designs Butterfly Kisses collection. And the skin tone cardstock I use for the baby and the girl gnome is from Concord and Ninth. It's the Nectar color. It's my favorite shade to use for a Caucasian. It has that peachy color to it. I always try to use a variety of different skin tones for the gnomes. And the little gnome baby does have an itty bitty nose, so don't forget to add that. And I picked up the nose using the wax tip end of the Craft Pro Pick tool. So there are all the images assembled. Off screen, I've already assembled most of the girl gnome. You can always watch some of my older Jaded Blossom videos if you need to see how to assemble the girl and boy gnome. For the background of my card, I've already assembled most of it and also stamped the sentiment, "Oh baby." I used a yellow petite print pattern from Doodlebug Design for the wallpaper. For the floor, I have a wood grain, and this is from Echo Park's Warms Wood Grain paper pad. And I even added the little trim piece. This is a Love from Lizzie peel-off, white in the straight style. I started by attaching the chair, and I simply glued that down. I did place a large acrylic block on top, let that sit for a few minutes. Next, I'll add the girl gnome holding the baby. So first, I'll attach her hands, and I'm putting them underneath the baby, making sure to add a hand behind the baby's head. Then I'll flip over the baby, put foam dimension on the back, remove the release paper, and add the baby in front of the girl gnome. And I've already put foam dimension behind the girl gnome. I'll remove the release paper and add her onto the chair. So now she's sitting on the chair, very carefully holding the new baby girl. The other images I'll be adding on the floor in front of the chair. This girl gnome will be all ready if that baby needs a toy or a bottle. I'll put the rattle on the right side, and for most of the pieces I am popping them up with more foam dimension. Next, I'll add the duck on the left side of the rattle. Now for the bear, it'll go on the right side, and its head will be sitting in front of the chair. So in that area, I'm not adding any foam dimension. I'm also tucking the bottle behind one of the bear's arms, so it's sort of nestled in there. The gnome didn't want that bottle to spill, so she had the little teddy bear sort of holding it. I'll first attach the bear with the bottle, put some clear double-sided adhesive tape on the back. Now I'll add the foam dimension on the back. I'm using more of the small foam squares, but behind the bear's arms, I will need to cut those foam squares in half. Then I'll remove the release paper, put glue behind the teddy bear's head, and add the bear holding the bottle on the left side of the card. Having the different baby items sitting on the floor in front of the chair, I think adds a really fun detail to this card. For a final finishing touch, we'll use a white gel pen and add highlights on the gnome, both the girl gnome and the baby girl gnome, and also a few highlights on the teddy bear, the duck, and the rattle. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. This was a really fun card to make. I know it was a lot of die cutting, but totally worth it. This would be a really fun card to customize if you know the colors of the nursery, and you could also easily change out the baby girl for a baby boy. Now moving on to card design number 4. For this card, I'm using Jaded Blossom's Window Card Matte Die. The pattern paper is from another older Doodlebug design collection. This one's called Sugar Shop. It's not specifically a baby collection, but most of the colors and designs work just fine. This collection is from 2014, so it is no longer available. Just to save time on the video, I've already assembled most of the card. I use craft cardstock for the window frame, white shimmer cardstock for the rectangles that go inside the frame, and a brighter pink cardstock for that background layer. Inside each of the rectangles, I'm adding a different onesie, and this is a girl card, so I use the onesie with the bow and the little ruffle at the bottom. I selected 4 different pattern papers from the Doodlebug Sugar Shop collection. I love the colors. Pinks, orange, and yellows reminds me of a sunrise. I am popping up all the onesies using the 1mm foam. I'll first attach the white stitched rectangle die cut, and I'm inlaying it, put glue on the back, adhere it in place. Then I'll add the final onesie. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out Hello Baby. I use a light pink solid pattern paper. This was included in the Sugar Shop collection, and I stamped it using dark brown ink. I did put foam dimension behind the sentiment. I'll remove the release paper and add it in the center of the window frame. For embellishments, I'm adding 2 small orange heart die cuts. And the heart dies are included with the Gnome Baby add-on die set. And I did pop up those hearts using more foam dimension. So there is my finished card. I did make 2, and this time I made a girl card and a boy card. Just followed the same design. I have a few more cards using Jaded Blossom's new release, but I did not record the process. So this card features the baby carriage, a boy gnome holding a baby bottle, and I did add a cute little baby girl gnome inside the carriage. I ink blended the background, added a few stitched heart die cuts, and these are from Jaded Blossom's rainbow die set. The next set of cards features the stork carrying the baby bundle. And I made 2, a girl card and a boy card. Added the sentiment, welcome to Parenthood. I used more pattern paper from the older Doodlebug design collections. For the wavy borders, these are from Jaded Blossom's border die set number 1. For this set of cards, I kept it nice and flat and didn't use any foam dimension. Card design number 7 features the duck stencil. And to add a little bit of sparkle, I use Astro Paste, the Frostbite color, after I stenciled the ducks in yellow ink. The pattern paper is more of the Doodlebug design older collection, and I couldn't resist using the sentiment, making a splash, welcome to the world, little one. And I did a very simple coloring of the duck next to the sentiment. My final card is probably my favorite, although I really like the stork cards as well. So this card features a little baby girl gnome. She's sitting in her nursery surrounded by 4 teddy bears. I used some teal and white stripe paper for wallpaper, a linen looking textured pattern paper for the carpet, and I added the sign baby on the wall, and these are the letters you can add to the wooden blocks. I also made 3 of the baby MDF pieces, 2 with a hang tag ring and 1 with the stand. And I tried to use different baby elements for the 3 babies. If you haven't used any of Jaded Blossom's MDF pieces before, I highly recommend them. They're perfect for ornaments, decor, or gifts. Now here's another look at the 16 cards and projects I made using Jaded Blossom's brand new April 2026 baby release. This is a theme that many people requested, and Jaded Blossom did not disappoint. There are so many fun dies, stamps, and that adorable duck stencil. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. You can always save by purchasing the full release bundle, but it's only available for a limited time. So if you're interested, I would suggest not waiting. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.